Hi there fellow guitar slingers, Josh Rogers here. Welcome to my first ever Q&A. I've been getting a few questions from fellow guitar slingers out there, curious about my guitars, what I do, how I come up with my tutorials and lessons and other bits and pieces. So today I'm going to be answering 3 questions. The first question is, what guitars am I using and what strings are they? First of all, I'm going to say that I use 3 guitars most of the time. I'm currently on tour, so I'm going to answer another question related to what I do a little bit later. The one I'm holding is a Takamine TNV 460 SC. If you want to know a little bit more about it, I've done a review on this guitar and you can find that in one of my other playlists. The strings that I use on here are these. These are Elixo Nano Webs with anti-rust, and the gauge is medium, 013 to 056, and these are acoustic guitar strings, phosphor bronze. I use these ones because they last long and they give me a good tone. I mean, you heard me opening up the video with it. And they also feel great to me. I've played a few other strings and they have a better feel, but when I'm on tour I need sort of reliable strings that are going to last me for a little while. I don't have a guitar tech or anything like that. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. I do all my guitar maintenance, and string changing, and pickup changing and all that kind of thing myself. So that's this one. The classical guitar that I use is also a Takamine. This is a TH5C. C stands for cutaway, Harare model. And the strings that I use on here are Augustines. These are the classic blue high tension. I had a very specific question asked about which string tension you should use if you're a beginner. And my advice to you is to start with medium. Classical guitar strings, they don't really have gauges per se. Oh, they do, but usually when you're buying them, they have a low tension, medium tension and high tension. They're not really like acoustic guitars that have gauges or electric guitars that use gauges. Classical guitars use tension. I play high tension strings because I like the projection that comes from them, and I like the instant response that I get when my fingers play. With the other 2 tensions, medium and low, it's a bit softer on your left hand, and it's a bit sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say easier, but it certainly feels different against the right hand. But you don't quite get that projection. That's not such a bad thing if you're using an amp, or you're playing in a situation where you don't need to project. If you are in a situation where projection is important, like if you're doing a recital or you do kind of unamplified gigs, or you just want to be a bit louder, then I would recommend high tension. If you're a beginner, start off with medium. The reason I say that is you're going to develop a feel and think, oh, these are a bit tight for me, so you might go to low tension, or you might feel that your hand's a bit stronger, and after a while you can handle a little bit more pressure down here, and so you go up to the high tension. Everybody's different, everybody has their own unique physiology, so just experiment as time passes. You have a whole lifetime to work out what's going to be good for you. And also, as a guitar player, you'll find that even you change. Sometimes you might think, oh, you know what, I've had enough with high tension. I'm going to go to medium tension for whatever reasons. So just because you pick one thing doesn't mean you have to stay on that one. That's this guitar done. The final guitar that I use when I'm out on tour is my trusty electric guitar. I only just recently purchased this a few months ago. This is an Ibanez 7-string. It's an RG8527Z. I purchased this in Japan. I wasn't actually living in Japan when I got it. I've got a friend that runs a Ishibashi music store in Tokyo, and he got this for me, and I bought it second hand. He sent me through the pictures and it looked absolutely great, and a couple of little nicks. There's a little mark on it here in the cutaway, but it's nothing, and I kind of saved about almost $2,000 actually, New Zealand dollars. I think in US dollars that's about 1,300. And for me, I feel like I got a brand new guitar. And speaking of strings, the strings that I use on this The XL Diata Rios, I've been using Diata Rios pretty much since I started playing the guitar. No real reason, I just started with these, and they've been good to me throughout the years, and they're consistent. The gauge that I'm using is 009 through to 054. I actually wanted 10s on this. I don't know, I think from playing classical guitar for so many years, my fingers are pretty strong. I find that I have to sort of hold back when I jump from my classical guitar or my acoustic guitar onto this, because it's just so easy to bend the notes, and sometimes my tuning or my intonation goes out a little bit. Great guitar. Those strings, why do I use them? As I said, Rio, they're very reliable. They last me 2 weeks because I sort of swap between 3 different guitars. You know, you got some players out there, they just stick to 1 guitar each night. But me, I'm sort of sharing the load amongst 3 guitars, so that's why I can get away with changing my strings a little less often. I play guitar for a living, so some of you out there that are sort of hobby guitarists, or you're just playing in your room, you might think, oh, what, you change strings that often? Yeah, that's why. Some professional players that I know, they change their strings after every show. You know, it's kind of up to you. Some people like the feel of older strings. It's all personal preference. That brings me to the second question, and that's what do I actually do? Because people are, you know, watching me put out a few of these videos every week and wondering how I have the time to do that. I actually have the time because I play guitar full time. To be a bit more precise, I play guitar in 5-star hotels and resorts all around the world. I'm going to let you in on a little trade industry secret here. What happens is there's a lot of 5-star hotels, you know, they're all around the world, they're everywhere. Some of them have live music, some of them don't. More often than not, depending on which part of the world you are, the hotel will hire local musicians if they want live music. But there are some places where they don't actually have a large pool of musicians to draw upon. With the 5-star hotels, usually they have an international clientele. I'll just give you an example. At the moment, I'm playing in a hotel in China. It's called the Hilton Shenzhen. It's about 45 minutes by ferry from Hong Kong. Everyone knows Hong Kong. A lot of you probably don't know Shenzhen, so I'll use Hong Kong as the closest place that you'll probably know. So basically, I'm working in Hong Kong. I work in a 5-star hotel. Why would they hire me? They would hire me because I can sing a lot of songs in English. As I just mentioned, a lot of 5-star hotels have international clientele. They have people from everywhere coming, you know. People from America, Canada, New Zealand, Africa, France, Europe, you know. Everywhere they're coming. And English, as we know, is kind of generally the business language of the world. But these hotels have an impression that they want to make, and they want musicians like me that can sing in English. I sing in a lot of other languages too. It's just part of the years and years that I've been doing this. Every country I go to, I pick up a few songs from that area. So that's what I do. I play 6 nights a week. I play for about 3 to 4 hours a night. It just depends. In the past, I have been in a lot of bands all across the world, playing in Dubai, Bahrain, Oman, places like that, Japan. So many countries. That's what I do for a living. So during the day, I'm usually working on new songs, practicing, and of course making the tutorials that this channel is becoming quite well known for. If you do want to see what I actually do, like from night to night, I have another channel. It's called Aroha Duo. That's the name of the duo that I'm in. Go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a little link down in the description below, and you can check me out there. I have to cut these videos short when I'm doing a tutorial. You know, it has to be all about the tutorial. I don't really like to talk about my personal life and stuff on there. But the question and answer forum and video that I'm doing now, it's a perfect opportunity for me to relate to you a little bit more personally. The last question, how do I figure out these songs that I'm putting on the tutorial? Basically what that question means is, how can I listen to something and learn it and then teach it? Let's go back a few years when I started playing the guitar. When I started playing the guitar, I was horrible. I could sing, but I couldn't play any instruments or anything, and my first lesson was shocking. Like, you know, I was like, I had to put my fingers on. I couldn't control my fingers on this hand. I had to literally grab like that, and I made a D chord. That was the first chord I learned on guitar. I don't know what your first chord is. Maybe you can leave a comment down below and tell me what your first chord was or what song it was. The first song I learned was Yellow Submarine, and this was the first chord of the first song. I don't know what my guitar teacher at the time was thinking. He must have thought, there's no hope for this guy. But you know, I just worked at it, and I was actually the worst in the group. There was about 3 of us. The other 2 guys that I was with, they're both still friends of mine actually from childhood. They were a bit better than I was actually. They were a lot better. They could both read music, and they both knew how to strum, and they knew a few chords, and I just felt so bad. I was like, oh man. But that actually drove me to become a better player. And after a few months, I got the hang of it. And hey, 20 plus years later, playing the guitar is actually what I do, and I've traveled around the whole world. But anyway, getting back to the question, how do I figure out songs? Well, I do it in a couple of different ways. Most of the time, depending on the song, like if it's a pop song that I'm learning, so something from Metallica or Katy Perry or Ellie Goulding, it doesn't really matter who. I usually listen, and I'll have my guitar with me. Sometimes I don't need a guitar. Sometimes I can just listen now and just kind of work it out. Oh yeah, it's like going from this chord to this chord to this chord. But for the most part, it just came from playing the guitar. And I'd learn something, and then I might hear it, something like that in another song, and I'm like, hey, that sounds like the other song that I learned, a couple of months ago. And I'd try it, and sometimes it would work, and sometimes it wouldn't. It's just one of those things. As you do something more, especially if you're applying yourself, you'll get better and better and better at it. If I was struggling, then I would try the melody. So it could be a melody like this. And then if I knew the notes, I'd be, oh, that kind of belongs to a G major scale. And then I'd think, I know the chords in G major. And then I'd run through some of those chords in G major, and hopefully I'd get it, and I'd be like, oh, okay, so I'd get one. I didn't always get all of the chords. Even now, after all of this experience, there are still times I'm like, man, I have no idea what that chord is. And I could struggle and struggle and struggle. For example, we do a song right now. It's called You Are Not Alone by Michael Jackson. He changes key twice. That's not a problem, but there's some really interesting chords in there. I think I've got them now, but I tell you, I struggled on that song for about a week, just trying to get some of these changes. I was listening and listening, and I was trying to search online, and I got it eventually, but I had to work out the bass line. I was like, okay, that's the bass line, but they were using inversions, and inversions are just chords twisted around so that there's a different bass note on top. I was listening, and I got there in the end, but sometimes you have to draw on so many resources, of course, online. Places like my tutorials. I head to tutorials. I went to a tutorial just the other day to learn the solo for Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth. I'd sort of played it a while ago, but I'd forgotten it, and I went to check out another great YouTube guy. He teaches a lot. So I went to his channel and I learned it like that. Other times I'll download the music, or I'll download the tabs, so I can read music, it's not a problem. That's how I figure out all these different songs. It's fun. For me, it's a joy to be able to listen to something and, oh yeah, I've got it, and then I play it. And it's a joy to be able to show somebody else that too, because there are times out there when I first started learning, there was no internet. I'm revealing my age now. The internet did not exist. All your guitar playing either had to come by listening, or if you were lucky you could buy those books full of tab. My first tab book that I bought was Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from Iron Maiden, and I just thought that was the greatest thing, and I still have that book 20 plus years later. That helped me a lot because there was a lot of stuff they were doing. I just could not figure that out by ear. And of course, some people are better at things than others. I've got some friends, their musical ear is just so far beyond mine. I'll listen to them and I'm just amazed, I think, how did you figure that out? And then there's some things I figure out and they ask the same question to me, like, Josh, how did you figure that out? Everyone's got different strengths at different times. Good thing is to recognize what's a strength and what's a weakness, and if you can, try to work on your weaknesses. Guitar slingers, I hope that I've answered those 3 questions for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to interact with you guys. I'm going to try to start a Google Hangout. To be honest, I truly don't really know what that is, but I've heard it's a really good way to interact with people that want to ask you questions. But in the meantime, until I've got it all sorted, I'm going to be doing these every Sunday. Stay tuned, subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Make sure you head across to my other channel. On that other channel I'm going to be giving you a lot of information about how to become a full-time musician like I do. I have a blog that I started about 4 years ago. I kind of neglected it, to be honest, for a few years, but I'm right back on top of that now. And you can head there and I'll show you how to make promotional videos, how to deal with contracts, how to pick a repertoire. There's so much information there. I'll leave a description down there as well. Subscribe, like the video if you like it, and head across, check out the Aroha Duo, and most of all, let your fingers fly.